The reason I accepted to speak on this topic, which is an extremely controversial topic, and I was asked to give this talk in Michigan, at the University of Western Michigan. അപ്പോഴും ഭയങ്കര കോൺട്രവേഴ്സീസ് ആയിരുന്നു. കാരണം ഇറ്റ്സ് എ വെരി ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ട് ഏരിയ. ചിലവർ മതത്തിൻ്റെ പേരിൽ ദേ ബിക്കം വെരി വെരി ആനിമേറ്റഡ് അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്. പക്ഷെ മരണം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഇറസ്പെക്റ്റീവ് ഓഫ് യുവർ റിലിജൻ, ഹൂ യു ആർ, വാട്ട് യു ബിലീവ്, യുവർ പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ പാർട്ടി, വി ആർ ഓൾ ഗോയിങ് ടു ഡൈ. ദർ ഇസ് നോ ഡൗട്ട് അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്. നമ്മൾ എങ്ങനെ മരിക്കും എന്നുള്ളത് വി ഡോണ്ട് നോ. But it should be comfortable. ഇതാണ് our thoughts about it. So death is inevitable, and pain and suffering can make it unbearable. But would choosing how we die be a blessing? ഇതാണ് ചിലരുടെ argument ഇപ്പം. If you look at the court ruling about Aruna Schonberg, which is a big case that led on to the passive euthanasia being to some extent legalized, is still in the courts. It is a very controversial area. So, there should be disclosure. You need to know whether I'm paid to give this lecture or whether I make any money from this. I'm not being paid for any of these lectures. I do have a patent in my name. I got a US patent for treating bed sores. And we're also patenting a device for memory. No conflict of interest. Euthanasia definition what do we mean by euthanasia? About 20 years ago, we never thought about it. None of us even remotely would have considered euthanasia to be something we would consider. It sounded very cruel. But if you see the last 10 years, things have changed dramatically. Cell phone ayalum, nammude social media ayalum, we have all changed. It has become convenience-based medicine. So just before coming here, we were talking about how things like this can be misused. So for example, the definition of euthanasia is a deliberate intervention undertaken with the intention of ending a life to relieve intractable suffering. The problem is, who defines intractable suffering? We don't know. Suppose my son wants my house and he thinks I should be on the street and I can't speak, maybe I have dementia, I don't know. So the definition itself is not very clear. The first ever euthanasia, we think these are the new things that have come up. This has always been there. Euthanasia is nothing new. The Roman Emperor Augustus, when he was dying, he did not want to be saved because he could not be saved, but he wanted them to speed the process up. He wanted to die quickly. He did not want to live longer. The term euthanasia was coined by Francis Bacon. If you look at it, 17th century, the people have been thinking about euthanasia. We are not the first people. But we don't talk about it. That's the problem. We think it's a dramatic thing. It's not. If you are in intractable pain, only you know what the pain is. But as a doctor, I am telling you, I'm going to give you morphine to make your life longer. I don't know what you feel. I don't know if you have heard about this phenomena. Thalai Kootal. Have you heard of it? Euthanasia has existed in India for thousands of years. Tamil Nadu, if you have old people or they have an illness they cannot treat, they do mercy killing there. Sometimes they tell the individual, sometimes they don't. There was one person who tried to run away from it. He was 80 years old. The family were trying to do this to him. Coconut oil, sesame oil, mix ചെയ്തിട്ട് തലയിൽ ഇങ്ങനെ മസാജ് ചെയ്യും. എന്നിട്ട് they give them a very cold water bath and then make them drink plenty of coconut water. അപ്പം നമ്മുടെ ഈ കരിക്കുന്നതിനകത്ത് there's a lot of potassium. Potassium ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് കൂടുമ്പോൾ it affects the heart. So people die. But it takes about 6 days. They used to use this mechanism to actually kill people. It is illegal, but nobody complains, nobody tells the police. When this became a big issue, there was a man who was 80 years old. He knew the family were trying to kill him, and he ran away. He didn't want to die. Euthanasia. So this goes back to the definition of the different types of euthanasia. Voluntary euthanasia, somebody has multiple sclerosis, chronic pain. He has the capacity. So what is capacity? Capacity is your ability to to understand the information I give you. So as a physician, I tell you, you have cancer, this is the diagnosis that you have, this is the prognosis, the likelihood of outcome is very poor, what would you like me to do? You understand the whole thing. You don't have dementia, you're not inebriated, you're not under the influence of alcohol. But you can make that decision. You say, okay, I know I have all these things, I have my family to support me, you have the capacity. When you don't have the capacity, അതായത് ICU കിടക്കുമ്പോൾ you're in a ventilator. അങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പം you have people on your behalf making decisions. That is non-voluntary. Involuntary euthanasia is literally murder. അതായത് the person does not want to die. So when I spoke to you about Talai Kootal, that actually was involuntary in some cases. But it is not unique to Tamil Nadu. This actually happens in Japan. In Japan, they call it obasuti. അതായത് they let the older woman die. How do they do it? They just let them leave the house and go away. They're supposed to take care of themselves. They die. But if it is any older person, it's called oyasute, older parents. They just abandon them. Even 2015, 2018, it came in the newspapers. But we think, oh, maybe Tamil Nadu, maybe they're very backward, this, that, and the other. They are not. These are things that happened over centuries. It evolves as a concept. So, for example, in Germany, avarku oru tribe undarna. Avar endu vancha, they put piles of wood. They pile it up very high. They climb the pyre. They stab the person, and then they set the thing on fire, and they burn the person. This was happening there, but it is not exclusively German or Japanese. Even the Inuit communities. So I live in Canada now, and that. If you go towards the north, avadeke food nu chelapam buttumutana. So when people get old and they're not able to contribute, they just walk into the cold. Thanappu nu parayumbom it's -40, -45. Bhayangaram thanappa. Even if you have the best jacket, you cannot stand outside for more than about 7 to 8 minutes. Bhayangaram, you really feel terrible. So they don't live very long, but they abandon them. In another place in Sardinia, they get a big mallet made of wood, and then they hit them at the back of the head. So this has been happening. We think it's all dramatic, it's like in a movie. But these things have been happening. It's been happening for centuries. Now because there's a law, they say no. But the law is changing. You can't take a hammer and go and hit somebody, but the law is changing. In Sweden, they used to push people from the cliffs. So Sweden is such a highly advanced state and they take care of everybody. But this happened to them. In Greece, above the age of 60, because food was scarce, they had to consume a poison. So the notion of euthanasia has existed for a long time. When we talk about euthanasia, there are two types. There's passive and active. Passive euthanasia in the life support. There's a very controversial term for it, DNR, do not resuscitate. Patient is vegetative state, like Aruna Shanbag was. But the funny thing about us as a society is, Aruna's case became so famous, euthanasia, it's a big deal. But did we do anything to stop sexual assault? We didn't. As a community, we've been a failure. That lady suffered miserably. Did we do anything to prevent further things like that happening? No. She became famous for what? Because of euthanasia, not because of the suffering, and the rates of sexual assault have not gone down. So we're very strange as human beings. We're willing to look at one particular aspect, but we ignore a more relevant aspect of it. Active euthanasia is where you tell a doctor that you want to die at a particular point in time. Okay? This is legal in some countries. For example, the patient is competent. He has the capacity. Patient consents and requests that this happens. Canada, they made it legal. In 2018, we had 3,000 patients who wanted to die by euthanasia. 3,000. We had one patient like that in our unit. It was very difficult, really. We knew the lady had a terminal neurological condition. There's nothing you can do. Whether it's allopathy, homeopathy, Ayurveda, when you have to die, you will die. You can't reverse it. None of us can do that. There is not one branch of medicine that is far superior to another. They all fail. But the question is, do you recognize that this is what's happening to you? Do you have the capacity? Other than in these countries, there's some very strict laws. Canada, even though they agreed to it, it has become a huge problem. More and more people are saying my quality of life is very bad. So we will go to the judgment they made in the court and how they defined it and why it's so controversial. But it's legal in Belgium. The Netherlands is leading the way. And I'll tell you why. At Netherlands, it had gone up quite significantly. Now it is falling again. And it's very interesting why it is falling. So this is again going back to the involuntary, so that we just revise it. Basically, it talks about an individual who's able to provide consent if he's asked, like Talai Kotal, if you ask him, he can tell you, but they sometimes do not ask people. They do it against their will. So it's literally murder. Non-voluntary euthanasia is fairly common. You have to go to the courts, you have to get permission from the courts, and only then can you decide to do it because you're acting on behalf of somebody, the power of attorney, or even the living will. So we have a lawyer here with us. But the whole thing is about how we focus on what it is that the law can do for you. Initially, when we was planning to do the talk, I told Cherian sir that we will title the talk Euthanasia, Are We Opening Pandora's Box? Because this is such a controversial area. We are struggling to make sense of it because we have a lot of people, they do not have terminal neurological conditions, but they have other reasons that they don't want to live. Some of them actually have depression. So if you look at what Pandora is basically from Greek mythology. So Prometheus stole fire from the king of the gods, and what happened is they wanted to take revenge. So he gave Pandora to Prometheus' brother, Epimetheus. And Pandora opens a jar that contained the illnesses. And by the time she realized what she did, it was too late. I have a feeling that we are doing the same thing with euthanasia. We are opening this up without really knowing what we are doing. And this is why we need to have discussions like this. We can't run away from it. So my concern is, number one, there's a precedence to how it has been abused. Does anybody know about this? Hadamar Euthanasia Center? In the 40s, there was a project by Hitler. They wanted to make their race superior. Either nobody with depression, nobody with dementia, no old people, nobody with learning disability, mental retardation, intractable epilepsy. They created these euthanasia centers. And this particular center, they killed about 200,000 people. It was all involuntary, it was murder. So they will put carbon monoxide, and the children did not know what it was. They thought it was a shower. So some of them died through this. A lot of people starved to death. That program was called Action T4. The program was expanded to include Polish people as well and other categories of people who were killed in vast numbers. So forget misuse. It was abused extensively. You can see the Pandora's box thing. They wanted to improve the race. We want very healthy people. They killed the most vulnerable of people. We live in a day and age now when financial difficulties can cripple you. When your family will not want to pay because you're in the ICU and it's 50,000 rupees a day and they cannot afford to keep you alive. What do you think is going to happen? We can all be there one day. LIC is only going to cover a certain amount. We are increasingly seeing that we are getting to that stage. We can bury our head in the sand. We can say, it's going to happen to most people. There is a lot of isolation. With social media, so my specialty is dementia. Now, we have memory problems. A lot of forgetfulness. One day you can see that nobody is willing to wait. Nobody has that. It's gone. Amygdala is there. Cortisol keeps pumping. The more cortisol you pump, the more you're likely to have memory problems because it subjects you to stress. I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Nobody does anything. How many people here do yoga? How many pray regularly? Nobody does anything. So gradually what is happening is our brain's capacity goes down. So imagine if you're in the ICU for 1 month and India has legalized euthanasia, the doctor comes and tells you, do you want to die? You've been suffering so much. What are you likely to say? You can't process the information. The only thing we have is this. I mean, your money can disappear, everything can go. You have only your brains. You can be the wealthiest person in the world, but if you're not happy, what's the point? But none of us are actually working towards that. We are constantly in a hurry. I'm really impressed to see this many people in here, honestly. In Chennai, we had 3,500 people. It was a massive audience. Massive audience. But there was a lot of awareness and discussion about it. The issue, though, is what are we doing? Are we creating toxic stress? Toxic stress is used by armies. One particular country has isolated a group of people creating toxic stress. Adayada, no food one day, they'll come and bomb you. Next day, no water. It becomes unpredictable. I'm going to remember your stress cortisol thing that I spoke to you about is so high, there's no way you can bring it down. I'm going to remember it affects memory formation, especially in children. But if you're so stressed, what happens to our children? Yesterday there was a case about Fatima, the girl who committed suicide in IIT because her marks were low. Is that what we want for our children? Forget euthanasia. I'm talking of suicide. These are people who have everything. They're not old, they don't have cancer, they don't have pain, but they don't want to live. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു 3 വർഷം ഒരു 16 വയസ്സുള്ള കുട്ടിയെ boy, he was admitted to my hospital. Very smart fellow. Then police brought him. എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ മറ്റേ പഴയ തെർമോമീറ്ററിൽ മെർക്യൂറി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നല്ലോ, അവനത് പൊട്ടിച്ചിട്ട് he took the syringe and he was injecting into his vein. So he came, he got admitted. I asked him, why were you trying to kill yourself? So he had that hangarai look on there. He'll sit back and he said, I'm young, I don't have any disease, I'm not in debt. Isn't this the best time to go? This was his question to me. So he said, okay, you Dr. A, you tell me, why should I live? That was his argument. No confusion, no depression, no anxiety, nothing. He's 16 years old. So suppose we legalize euthanasia and we say intractable suffering, okay? You remember the definition? British House of Lords. Kutti varayana, I don't want to suffer in debt. That is unbearable for me. Who can argue in a court that this child does not have capacity? You see the problem? We are opening up a can of worms. We have no idea what it's all about. But at the same time, there are examples I'll talk about the other side. In 1828, they passed an anti-euthanasia bill. So all these are related to the US, except for the last one. There was a strong move against it, but it was driven by a religion. God is going to punish you. You should not die before that. But the people who said that were not the people who are suffering. We make decisions on behalf of other people. That's very easy. If I'm the head of the department, I can sit on this side of the table and think I don't make any mistakes. And I can think, oh, that man is very foolish, he made a big mistake. But if I was in his place, maybe I would have made the same mistake. I don't know. But we all have that way of thinking that we are somehow special, we are different from other people. When this law was passed, there was so much anger towards it. There was a lot of anger, hostility, and things like that. And I'll show you a study that showed the reversal. So this started in New York. Then they discovered anesthesia. Anesthesia, the advantage is you can actually give it and people don't feel anything. They just pass away quietly. But we don't know what happens after death. We think that just because somebody's eye is closed, they have no pulse, they have no heart, we think they're comfortable. I don't know. So when this 16-year-old boy said, okay, Dr. A, you tell me why I should not die. Nobody who has died has come back and told me it's good to be dead. So he started laughing. He said, yeah, it's a good one. Small, young kid, just imagine. So this evolved. In 1937, Switzerland allowed suicide. 1938, they started a euthanasia society. 1977, living wills. 1994 in Oregon. You can see how quickly things started changing. In 2002, Netherlands decriminalized euthanasia. So UK, there was a very famous doctor, Harold Shipman. He killed hundreds of people. He used to see people in dementia and he didn't want them to suffer, he'll kill them. Nobody knew about it. Then they caught him and he committed suicide in jail. Here in Woodstock, where I work, there was a lady who was killing patients. She was injecting insulin. Her name was Wettlaufer. If you Google, you will see her name in Woodstock. And I used to go to that nursing home and see patients. We had no idea this lady was killing people there. Shocking, isn't it? 2016, they made it legal in Canada. In India, the Aruna Shamba case became very famous. I was happy to see the courts are discussing it, but I was very sad to see that sexual assault in India is still going up. Nobody bothered to talk about it. Nobody bothered to even pass a law, Aruna's law, saying that there should be strict penalties for sexual assault. I didn't see anything like that. I was happy we were talking about it. But this lady was in a vegetative state. She could not move, talk, nothing. They did research recently and found people in vegetative states actually do have emotion in some cases. They found this in research now. They can't move, they can't respond to you. So imagine if you're in that state, you're lying there, you can't speak, but somebody is coming in and saying, oh, this person is a pain, I have to change the diaper, I have to change. I mean, you can hear all that. How would you feel? It's terrible, isn't it? There's a neurological condition called the locked-in syndrome. Either the only thing you can do is move your eyes, nothing else. You can hear everything, you can smell, you can sense, but you can't speak. Now, we will probably have a discussion about this. I'm really not a lawyer, so I'm not here to talk about the legal aspects of euthanasia, because the law changes. We really don't know much about it. This is the study I told you. Netherlands they did a big study. That is euthanasia acceptable. In 2013, more than half said no, it is unacceptable. But see how it changed within 4 years. Within 4 years, 73% said yes, euthanasia is okay. So, the laws can change based on what the public want. If the public don't think about it, the laws will be passed, it will be implemented, but also enforced. Up in Michigan, which I was doing this lecture, and there was a very young physician. He was chairing the session. So I said, hypothetically, governments to save money will tell people, we don't have money for your treatment, but you can opt for euthanasia. I gave this as a hypothetical scenario. So usually in the sessions, the chair will very rarely stand up. He stood up and he said, it's not hypothetical. In the United States, there was a lady with multiple sclerosis. The insurance company, we cannot give you money for treating multiple sclerosis, but we will give you money for medical assistance in dying, the euthanasia. They actually said that. Can you believe it? We cannot give you money for treatment. So India, law, it is going to be so difficult to navigate it, because then you're no longer in control, even if you have capacity. Friends or family will come and say, we don't have the money for it, we cannot afford to treat them. What do you do? And this in just 4 years, from no, it went to becoming yes. There's always a bias in all polls, there's no doubt about it. So, there's a company now called Dignitas, a corporation. So I have a patient right now. If I have a diagnosis of dementia, I want to die. If I have a diagnosis of dementia, Dr. A, I want to die, I don't want to live. How do you treat a patient like that? Diagnosis you cannot, you have to tell them the diagnosis. So if he gets to know he has the diagnosis, he wants to kill himself. So there are people who are making money out of this. Article, you should read it. It came in the Telegraph. It was about the first victim of euthanasia. It was a small boy who was killed by the Nazis. This is a kid who had no idea as to what was going on. He was killed because they felt he was disabled. Isn't that sad? But you look at the Gallup poll, no, and then it became yes. So as a society, be careful. We all have the mob mentality. Once you get caught into it, it becomes very hard to reason. So these are the predominant reasons for euthanasia: terminal condition, cancer, multiple sclerosis, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. These are horrible neurological conditions. In Canada, they have now approved MAID, medical assistance in dying. Definitions in the how it is not very good. made basically is a right for competent, consenting adults with a grievous and irremediable illness. It can be a disease or a disability causing enduring suffering that is intolerable to the individual. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ എക്സാമ്പിൾ എടുക്കുന്നത് സ്കിസോഫ്രനിയ. ഒരു മാനസിക രോഗം. സ്കിസോഫ്രനിയ ഉള്ളൊരു കുട്ടി പറയുന്നത്, I know the prognosis in the next 20 years. Right now I have schizophrenia. I'm 25 years old. Doctor, I don't want to live because it is a lot of suffering. The medication has side effect. Do you think they would succeed in court? There is a case now the Supreme Court of Canada is considering. ഈ കൺവേർഷൻ ഡിസോർഡർ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പം ഇതൊരു മെൻ്റൽ ഹെൽത്ത് ഡയഗ്നോസിസ് ആണ്. അതായത് ഒരാൾക്ക് when you have a lot of mental suffering, it manifests in a physical symptom. അപ്പം ചിലവർക്ക് കൈ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. It's a conversion dissociative disorder. ചിലവർക്ക് they get a specific kind of spasm. This thing I have taken directly from the Supreme Court thing. She suffers from involuntary muscle spasms that radiate from her face through the sides and the top of her head into her shoulder. It causes severe pain, constant migraines. Her eyelid muscles have spasmed shut, so she cannot even see. Her digestive system is ineffective. She can go without eating for up to 2 days. She has significant trouble sleeping, and because of digestive problems, she has lost weight. She has lost muscle mass. She cannot walk. She is non-ambulatory, needs to be carried. Her quality of life is non-existent. It is so difficult, isn't it? So now you are seeing, okay, euthanasia. The patient says, I don't want to live like this. What does the court do? She says, I have no quality of life. I cannot talk to my children. I can't take care of my children. I just don't know what to do. And there is no treatment. So now we are going back to the definition now. A right. So right in the Parayma Apandane, the Supreme Court of Canada, human rights takes precedence over everything. Right for competent, consenting adults. So I want to die, I don't want to live. She is competent, she knows the diagnosis, she knows what they're going to do. Grievous, irremediable illness. That does not have a treatment. We know so many diseases that don't have treatment. Or a disability. The child has Down syndrome. He is an orphan, nobody to take care of. The child develops depression. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ somebody has taught them how to use alcohol. The child is on the street, depressed. She comes and says, I want to die. You see how difficult it gets? It's so complicated. So the parameters given did not limit medical assistance in dying to only Canadians who are at the end of the life. We're getting to that point. I'm not talking of old people. I'm talking about young people. The 16-year-old boy, somebody with schizophrenia, somebody with severe depression, severe alcohol problem. Telling you I want to die. What do you do? This is the bill in Canada. Criteria, they have a serious incurable illness or disability, advanced state of irreversible decline. Illness, disease, or disability of that state of decline causes enduring physical or psychological suffering, and it's intolerable to them. It cannot be revealed under conditions that they consider acceptable. So, she was very rude, very, very dismissive, very difficult to manage. Staff could not manage her. It was very difficult. Very aggressive. She just wanted American. Finally, she got it. She got the consent and it was approved, and she passed away. But see the problem. If she was willing to take treatment, she may have gotten at least to some extent better. But I wanted to die. Their natural death has become reasonably foreseeable. In the next 6 months, you're going to die. Upon Chile Rajing, 6 months has been put as a criteria. So when I was giving the lecture in Chennai, there was a euthanasia, there was a professor there who spoke about Australia and the 6-month criteria. In the next 6 months, you're likely to die. So some countries are putting those criteria in there. This is very interesting. The numbers have been going down. Holland, where it used to keep going up consistently, it actually came down. The reason it came down is because they sued the doctor for malpractice. There was a case on that. It's very interesting. There was a lady, she was very competent. She told her doctor, dementia vanna, I want you to kill me. I want you to give me the injection, I want to die. So she developed dementia Sometime later, doctor went to see her. She said, I don't want to die. Do you know what they did? They actually tied her down and gave the injection. Upon the doctor said, this is what I promised the patient when she was competent. Now she is not competent, I have to do it. So her son, he came and he's written, even this you can Google, it's a very interesting case. And he was so sad that this happened. He was willing to take care of her. So in essence, my feeling is, I think this is a very tricky area. It's a very slippery slope. I think especially in Kerala, where money, young people want a Mercedes-Benz, they want a car, they're very happy to get rid of their parents, push them onto the road. I think you're going to see a lot of problems here. So don't save your money for your children, buy something, go enjoy life. But the point is, there's a lot of problems happening. We really need to be careful. I'm not even talking of dementia, I'm just talking of diseases. Chalorka financial difficulties kanam. Like I told you about the lady in the States, insurance company refused to pay. Organ harvesting. Chala hospitals like you go in, they take your kidney. What is it that's happening there? What if the government starts saying, we'll give your family 10 lakhs, Kanam, if you're in the hospital, it's going to cost us 30 lakhs. We're coming to that point in India now, because cost is a big issue. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is a concern. Canada, the average waiting time to get a place in a long-term facility is 4 years. In some places, up to 4 years. So, you're staying in the hospital. Every day in hospital is $820. You do the math, how much it comes to. It's a huge amount of money. What about children who say there's global warming, there's no future for me, I'm in debt, there's no privacy issues, social media, people are bullying me. If they ask for suicide, what are you going to do? People who are really suffering, do we allow euthanasia? So this discussion here was meant to reflect on a few issues. The first is, treatment failure is not only allopathy. It is Ayurveda, homeopathic, surgical. Euthanasia is something that the individual who's suffering may need to have the ability to opt for. Whether it is right, whether it's wrong, I don't know. But it is a discussion we need to have, which is why I thought this was a great idea to have a discussion like this. And this actually is gaining a lot of traction. We need to be aware of it. We know the quality of air is poor. You go to Delhi, air is horrible. What if a child tells you, I don't want to live like this? Now they have oxygen bars in Delhi. We're getting to that point. Water quality is poor. So to conclude, euthanasia is an area we need to talk about. We cannot run away from it. It has existed for hundreds of years. It is deeply in the culture of many different areas. It is a very difficult area for us. Religious scholars need to start thinking about it. Political leaders need to think about it. But we need to think about it as well. I'm not for or against it. I'm just presenting my points of view here. But I'm very happy to take questions. But I will conclude with one simple thing. Namula, when you look at a problem from outside, it looks very nice. You have no idea what's going on. But if you go down to the ground level, then you may see somebody who's homeless, somebody who's in pain, probably has leprosy, tuberculosis, probably has treatment-resistant cancer. But only when you start looking for it, you will see it. If we want to be ignorant, we can be ignorant, and ignorance is bliss. Thank you.